Hello and welcome to week two. This is obviously recorded the week before. That's okay. Um, we had our introduction last week, just kind of had an introductory toe in the water of groups. This week we're going to jump in a little bit deeper into theory and understanding why groups are effective. So I'm going to share my screen and jump right into this content. So here are our tasks for group week two. We're going to look at outside sources. And so I mentioned that our textbook was rather light as far as content goes. It's very, very practically written where you can take it and actually design a group. Since that's your group project this semester, you need to design a group of your own. And that's 100 points, a big portion of your grade. I wanted to have a group that's, or a textbook that's easily accessible, that you're gonna practically use in a way that applies the information and be able to integrate it easily. Sometimes a really theoretical, technical jargon, really thick textbook, it's harder to do that. So I've supplemented the material this week with information from Corey and also information from Yalom. So we'll talk about Yalom later on in the professor in the course. And so I just basically want to make sure you're getting adequate information. So if you open this Yalom document, it really speaks to these therapeutic factors that lead to change, that are primarily the driving forces behind why groups are effective. In my experience with groups, groups have been effective because people identify. So think about this situation. So say that you're a trauma survivor, regardless of the type of trauma. And I'm the therapist or I'm the counselor, and I'm telling you, well, you're going to experience this, you're going to experience that. Or you're a substance use counselor, and you say, well, I've never done meth addiction, but you're going to experience. You're having. I've never had a meth addiction, but you're gonna experience this and that as a meth addict. There's always a grain of salt in that client's mind that, yeah, you really don't know what it's like, and you're trying to tell me about what my experience is. So there's also a level of accountability in group that, as a counselor, you can say, well, have you thought of it this way? And yeah, this guy's just getting paid to say this, or this lady's just getting paid. That they don't really care, they don't really know, they can't connect. To me, the real driving force behind why groups are effective is that there are things that other group members said and say that a therapist can't say. They can be more direct, they can be more confrontational, they can call people out on their bullshit. You can also see that there's more of a connection between group members because they may have a much more similar experience than what the therapist or the counselor has lived through. And so, especially when I'm working with teens, if group has really good cohesion, we'll talk about that's a buzz term to think about as far as words why groups are effective, is if you have good cohesion between members, and that's in the working stage, actually the performing stage of the group. It's important that you develop this group cohesion because group members can then feel comfortable to share, can feel very, very open, and also have this tight, cohesive group that build each other up. So one of the things that I've seen were a group of teen girls who kind of brought each other up here in the Enid area together in this group at Youth and Family. Through middle school into high school, and really were this close-knit, not, of course there's little catty stuff here and there, but the 6 or 7 of them just retained this core group. And so they would, as they would experience life, they would come to this group and have this sounding board in this safe space, and also the therapist, the counselor there to kind of make sure that this is therapeutic. It's not just, shooting the breeze, so to speak. It's like we're focused on real issues. This was amazing to see, and I had a group of young men like that went through drug court together. I think of a core group of 6 or 8 that still to this day are extremely successful, have families, don't have addiction issues, and are just really super people. And so, and I attribute that less from me as the counselor, and even less from the the counselors were skilled that were running that girls group, but more as the group itself. So there's these other dynamics at play, where things happen that a counselor in a one-to-one situation with another client can't replicate, can't really give. Think of a sexual abuse survivor, and you're in a group together, and somebody comes out and says, you know what, I just felt responsible. I just felt like it was my fault. And the counselor can talk about survivor's guilt, all these things, but hearing that from another person, now I'm not alone. Somebody else understands. I'm not just out here on my own island, just this weird person that nobody understands. I have this connection, this universality. That's another big term when we're talking about group, and so that's this kind of universal human experience, especially for folks that have experienced something very similar. So those are things that are important to think about. And I've got these terms. You're welcome to read through them, see what they are. You see a lot of trust and acceptance, empathy and caring, intimacy, hope. Catharsis was big by Yalom. These things here, this sounds like Rogers, right? Trust and acceptance, empathy and caring, feeling intimacy, it's the same thing. So you have to create this safety, this zone of safety in a group. And that's tough to do because group members can sometimes be assholes. And if you're in a real group, you'll see that. I thought there were going to be several fights. I stepped in between a fight once in the men's adult rehab facility between two guys that were ready to come to blows. They'd both been in prison. They'd both been, and one person was convicted of manslaughter when he was 15. And this was intimidating. It was very intimidating as a counselor to try to intervene. So things happen. That's the bad thing. There's less control with groups. Corey, this is excellent information as far as an outline goes. So I would go ahead and open that up and read through it. Again, excellent information for the NCE. I've also included a video by Dr. Todd Grande. He actually taught at Adams State University for a while. He's a successful YouTuber. I mean, actually, and he's legit. He's got his PhD. He's a legit guy. Knows what he's talking about. And then I've got your discussion board post down here. So think about these things. Think about what might be most important to you, and that's what you're going to reflect on in your discussion board this week. So just wanted a short video to check in to know that I'm thinking about you. I have thought about you, and I'll be back in the saddle this week. So take care. Reach out to me if you have any questions. See you.